So I'm gonna be completely honest here. It's looking very, very likely that the number one draft pick right now is going to be our fam. I didn't see this snippet of the article yesterday, but I made a video being like, you know what, this will change everything for the WNBA draft. But it does very much feel like the draft has changed. The odds have changed, or the likelihood of a specific player going number one has changed. And it seems like they're probably leaning towards Awa fam. And yeah, I don't think it's going to be a bad pick. I don't think taking Awa is ever a bad pick. I think she's fantastic. But let's take a listen to what Jose Fernandez... It says here in the W Inside article, for Jose Fernandez, the choice at number one isn't just about the biggest name. It's about finding an engine. His system relies on relentless transition game where the center is often the most important sprinter on the floor. We're going to rim run harder. When we get it off the glass, we're going to create defensive mismatches with great rim runs. As well, the number one isn't about the biggest name. From as far as I'm aware, Kurt Miller, who is the GM, has called Awa fam a phenom. Everyone still thought, okay, they're still going to probably go with AZ, just because of the Paige link, because they played with each other. But after hearing that they're going for Arike, or that they're trying to keep Arike, I was like, maybe Lauren Betts might be back in that conversation. But it seems like they want centers to be rim runners. And like, Awak's not a true center. Like, Dorka's kind of playing center. Awak and Awa together, they both shoot the three. Like, apparently there's been talk, like Jose Fernandez said he likes bigs that can space the floor. Both Awak and Awa are extremely athletic. Awak's a good rebounder. Awa will tip rebounds. But like, the likelihood is that the Dallas Wings are going to be bad for another year. Or whether not bad or not, but they're going to be like, not like a lottery team again. And that's probably where they're looking. They're like, look, we won 10 games last year. We can win 20 games and still have probably the best odds for, we can go 20 and 24 or 18 and 26. We can have a respectable season and still be in the top 3 odds for the first pick. Like, that's the way I think the Dallas Wings are looking at it. They're like, we can be respectable. We don't want to be good. We want to be like 2023 Fever. Like, respectable, but you don't want to be too good to get into the playoffs and lose out on a chance at the number one pick. Because Juju Watkins is probably going to come out in 2027. Like, for me, there'd be no reason for Juju to go back to college. Like, I don't think that they're going to beat UConn. I just don't. I think Juju, Jazzy Davidson, the players that USC have, and I think they have the number one recruit again this year, but I feel like it's too many like for likes with USC that I don't see how they don't get in each other's way a little bit. But at the same time, like, the Dallas Wings, if the Dallas Wings do end up landing Juju, that becomes a natural point to move on from Arike. And then you spend your money on a point guard. Like, if you have Paige on a rookie deal, Juju Watkins, or Madison Booker. Madison Booker works in there as well. Or fuck it, Hannah Hidalgo works too. Hannah Hidalgo can work in that role. Paige kind of playing. And she's bulking up. Paige can absolutely play the 3. And then you look for you try to find, is there any like 5'10", 6-foot point guards that are able to run the show? But like, imagine Paige, Madison Booker at the 2-3. You have a super max or a max contract there for a point guard, and there's a lot of players, especially if your facility gets built. You can get the best point guard free agency in 2027, and it's either Paige, Juju / Booker on the 2 wings, Awa and Awak, and then you're like, oh shit, we can either go all out and not start one of those 2 young bigs, or we can get the best bench in the league. And suddenly it's like they become contenders in 2 to 3 years. Like, they become contenders in 2028, 2029, and that's kind of where they're going for. And I think the AZ Fudd situation is the highest floor. Like, we've seen in games in college that if you guard AZ Fudd, she doesn't do anything. That being said, you have to really focus on AZ Fudd. She's good enough that, like, she takes defensive focus, but, like, she can't create off the dribble at the college level. She's not going to be able to create off the dribble. I've seen this thing being like, AZ Fudd has no weaknesses. She's not a very good defender. She can't, she's not a quick defender. She's a good defender. She's smart. Her anticipation is very good. But there's a difference being a good anticipator. You can be a good anticipator in a good defense, in a UConn system. But I also think for AZ, going to Seattle or going to Minnesota is better for her as well. So people being like, oh, I'm attacking AZ, I think that works out better. The worst thing is that if Minnesota had the 1 pick and Dallas had the 2 pick, it's very obvious the way this draft goes. AZ goes to a win now franchise, where she can just slide in, and Awa goes to Dallas, which suits her the most. She gets to play with Paige, and the Dallas Wings have the best future. The problem is that there's the optics of using a number 1 pick on a player who's going to average 7 points a game as a rookie. The only thing is, though, is I don't know if AZ Fudd averages more than 8-9 points a game. Like, I have a feeling that, like, if Flaw J ends up on an expansion team, Flaw J could be rookie of the year. Like, it's not I don't think it's going to go number 1 pick 2 years in a row. Or it mightn't go number 1 pick. Like, I think I was 19. Like, I was a child. I was younger than Sarah Strong. I was, like, she'd be a freshman in college. Like, if she went to UConn as a freshman in college instead of entering the draft, like, she could have went to UConn. And if she went to UConn, they would never, like, Awa and Sarah Strong, they'd never lose another game. Like, she turned down UConn. But, yeah, it does seem very clear, like, so people think these coaches are going to make a draft based on the college. Like, I don't think it's anything to do with that. If they know Awa would feel a bigger need, and I think they feel pressure to get Fudd. We fans can criticize, judge things easily from the sideline. We're not in these guys' shoes. Yeah, like, and that's the thing where it's like, I think if we're being real, Awa is the better fit. Awa's the better fit. If there's a different team at number 1, we have a different conversation. There is pressure from the UConn Mafia. Like, Taurasi came out from the freaking wilderness. She never hardly ever speaks on anything. She came out of the wilderness to let everybody know that AZ should be the number 1 pick. Like, look, AZ Fudd's not even the best player on her college team. That being said, again, like, AZ Fudd has had Sarah Strong on her team, but it's like, this is the first healthy season of AZ's life, and she's been great. But it's like, even you're seeing it still, there is no reason why she should have been first team over All-American over Hannah Hidalgo. Like, that's just UConn bias. Like, and I'm not even going to say her going number 1 isn't UConn bias. It is the highest floor. But, like, if Arike is still there, you are, like, I can't see them signing a 24-year-old, a near 24-year-old, instead of a 19-year-old. Like, AZ Fudd is like 4 years older now, fam. And who is the better player right now? AZ, but by about this much. Like, I think AZ is a slightly better player than Awafam. And it's not like, I think Awafam has similar potential to Malonga, but it's not like last year. Last year, I fully believed. I still stand by this. If I had the number 1 pick, and by the way, last year, it was you couldn't pass up on Paige, because Paige was the sure thing. I still think Malonga, like, if you ask me to pick every player in the 2020s, I'd take Malonga number 1 over Caitlin Clark. Like, that's how high I think, that's how good I think Malonga is going to be. I think she could be, I think Malonga is going to be the best player of this era. That being said, like, you don't pass up on Paige. You just don't. So you've got that situation over all around. But then obviously now it's a tough one because, well, you don't pass, like, it's a different, because people are like, oh, you can't pass up on AZ for potential. And it's like, people are like, the AZ Fudd fans are mad because they're like, oh, it's potential FC. It's like, yeah, no shit. That's what you draft for. Like, you don't use the number 1 pick on a fucking player that it's probably not going to be better than Sonia Citron. Like, you don't use the number 1 pick on a player whose ceiling might be 1-time All-Star, whose ceiling might be Ali Quigley. And that's not a knock on Ali Quigley. Ali Quigley was insane. But, like, you don't use, when you have the best pick and roll big to ever come into the draft, and that includes Aaliyah, who had to learn to be a pick and roll big, the best one ever in the draft. you take him number one. And that can run the floor, they can shoot the ball. And it sounds like that's what they're going to do. But anyway, I'll see you guys.